morning, guys. I hope you're all doing really well and having a good week so far. I am tucked up in my hay barn, sat on my shavings, which are quite comfortable because it's a bit of a blustery wet evening actually, so better to be inside here. Now, for my normal audience, this is probably not a vlog that is going to interest you guys because I'm talking about being a freelance rider and groom, some of the pros and cons to the job and some of my top tips. So it's probably more for a video of someone that's interested in coming into this kind of industry, this career, or taking this career path. So I will take no offense at all if you switch this vlog off now, and hopefully I'll be back with a normal video on Sunday. But if you are thinking of becoming a freelance rider or groom, then hopefully I might have some good advice, some kind of top tips for you. I have been working in the industry for 18 years and I've worked on many different types of yards, from like professional event and dressage yards to kind of family yards to kind of literally working out of a field. I've worked on big studs. I feel like I've had a good varied career so far, and yeah, so hopefully I have some good knowledge to share, but obviously these are all my personal thoughts and maybe very different to someone else's. But anyway, let's get started. I'm going to start with the negatives and get them out the way first of all. First up, obviously being a freelance groom or rider, the pay is not great. So even though you set your hourly rate, it doesn't mean that it's a job that's going to earn you lots of pennies, sadly. I think we all know that working in the equestrian industry does not pay well in the slightest. And you have to be careful when setting your rate that you don't set it so high that nobody wants to employ you. But at the same time, you don't want to set it so low that it's not actually possible to live off the money you're earning. And with the current kind of cost of living, it is really hard to make this job work and pay well enough to support yourself. It really is. And I'll be honest, I could probably do with my hourly rate being a good £2 or £3 more than what it is, but I'm not sure I can risk moving it up a bit more and not losing clients at the same time. And sadly, there will always be people who are willing to like take your job and charge less. So it's a real balancing act. I guess it's like that for any sort of freelancers in any kind of job. So yeah, pay, it's not great. I think we all knew that anyway. My next kind of negative with it is the kind of fluctuation in work. It's very up and down in this job, as to be expected with horses. You never know what they're going to get up to. So you can go through a period of time where it is so busy that you are absolutely exhausted, you don't have a day off, and you are totally and utterly knackered, which is literally what happened to me for the past 2 months. And then suddenly it can just drop like that, and suddenly work goes really quiet and you've barely got any work on, and obviously you're earning not very much. And that's a bit scary because it does mean your job is really unstable. And that's exactly what's happened to me at the moment. Suddenly work's really dropped. People have gone away or they've sent horses off. Horses break all the time. They sell horses go out on holidays. Like, there are many reasons why suddenly a job you've been doing might suddenly cut you, or suddenly say, oh, actually we don't need you for a few months now, or things like that. And it's hard, it's really hard, because it can be very difficult to suddenly fill that slot if it's just for a couple of months. Earlier this year, I had one of the ponies that I school went off with an injury, and I think it was off for maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and you know, it made a massive difference to what I was earning. So the stability of the job is not great, and it's always going to be very up and down. You just have to kind of ride out the waves, find extra work when you can. And obviously winter is very tricky because, you know, the daylight hours get shorter and you've got to cram more work into it. And it can be really tough in the middle of winter. Like sometimes, you know, when it's dark by about 3 o'clock, you literally are struggling to get everyone sort of done and finished because you've lost so many hours of daylight. So it can be a stressful, hard job. The other thing I would say is it really does take a toll on your body. It's an active job. Obviously you're getting horses in and out, you're riding, you're mucking out, you're doing so much, and you're all right probably for the first 20-30 years of your life when you're doing it. But when you hit your 50s and 60s, realistically, is it a job you still want to be doing? It's something I definitely question, like, do I want to be doing this when I'm 50? You know, I'm already feeling aches and pains. God knows what I'll be like in another, God knows, 20-30 years time. So that's another thing. It's not necessarily a job you can do forever. Now, there's always going to be people out there that do, you know, manage to keep going until they're 60 plus, but you have to question that kind of thing. You know, it takes a toll on your body. It's, you know, you're gonna put a lot of wear and tear on it. Another one is the weather. Now, obviously, if you own horses, you're going to know that, you know, you get all sorts of weather chucked at you and you just got to get your head down and get the job done. But in the middle of winter, when it's freezing cold, it is tough. And the older you get, the worse it gets. You don't tolerate it as well. And I mean, in the end of winter, I come out looking like a flippin' chilblain, the whole of me. It's horrible. And when it's freezing cold and then you get that biting wind, and you know, most of your clients are all tucked up inside, keeping nice and warm, but they're like, oh yeah, the horse needs exercising. You're a bit like, oh, and you know, wrapped up from head to toe trying to keep warm. Yeah, there are definitely moments in the middle of winter where I think, I don't know why I've chosen to do this job. I am absolutely daft as anything, because this is hell on earth. Obviously there are better seasons in the year, but in the middle of winter it's hard. And also, if you go through a spell, which we always do, where it kind of snows for a bit or it goes super icy, you can end up losing work in the middle of winter because simply you cannot get to jobs, or it's too icy on people's driveways to get horses out, or arenas are frozen. So again, there's another opportunity to lose work for a couple of weeks when it's really, really cold. And sometimes in the middle of winter, you do not suddenly want to have a week of zero work. I've had that where it snowed, it's then frozen, and literally haven't been able to get to any job. And don't get me wrong, the occasional snow day is very nice and you get a little day off and you get a bit of a rest, but you don't want it for a week or two when you're trying to survive. So weather is not, you know, it's a bit of a negative when it comes to being a freelancer. Obviously, being a freelancer means that you are self-employed. So, you know, you've got a little bit more of the kind of finance stuff to work out and taxes and all that. It takes a little bit longer than being on the books on a big company or something, which is a little bit easier, and you don't really have to do much. If you're self-employed, you have to do all your own taxes and sort all that out. So that takes a little bit more work, and, you know, you have to make sure you keep receipts and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's obviously very doable. Another big one is that you don't get paid holiday. This one, I'm so jealous of other people on this one. Yeah, if you're a freelancer, you don't get paid holiday. And when other people are like, oh yeah, I'm off on holiday, but you know, they're getting paid for it, you know, for that time off, green-eyed monsters come out on me. Yeah, it's tough. You have to work hard when you're being a freelancer, and you don't get paid holiday. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else to say on it. You don't get it. Even though I often see on Facebook lots of posts for people looking for freelancers to work for them, actually finding work is not that easy. Wherever you live, if you are becoming a freelance groom or rider, you do not want to be travelling miles and miles every day to work, because obviously that's going to cost you time and money on fuel. So it's quite important to find jobs that are quite local to you and preferably quite close together. So like I say, you're not travelling endlessly around all day. And that's not always that easy. Also, especially for me, most of my clients always want me in the morning, but you can't put everybody in the morning. There's only so much time you've got in the morning. And so sometimes, you know, there might be jobs advertised, but they'll always want you first thing, and maybe you've allocated that to somebody else. Like, quite often finding work in the afternoon is quite tricky. Like, nobody wants you around lunchtime or anything like that. So not always easy to find work in this job. And as I've already said, you can end up doing quite a lot of driving about, and this obviously puts extra wear and tear on your transport, so on your car, whatever you're driving. And obviously, you know, it's costly, fuel's expensive. So if you're doing lots of driving to and from jobs, you're burning fuel, that's costing you money. While you're sat in the car, you're not earning money. So that can be tricky as well. Let's move on from the negative points and go with the positive points about being a freelancer. Obviously, the number one is the fact that you are flexible. You can work whatever days and hours you want, and you are your own boss. So if you want to take a Wednesday afternoon off, you can. If you want to go competing midweek, you can, because obviously it's you that makes your schedule, your work week timetable. And yeah, you can work whatever days of the week you want to, and you can start whatever time you want to. You don't have to kind of abide to anyone else's rules. So that is the best bit about it overall, is the flexibility, and that is why I do it. It means that I can fit my horses in still. In the middle of winter, I can schedule my horses in for like the middle of the day and make sure I get them ridden. Whereas if I was working on like one yard full time from like 7:30 till 5:30 or something, I would not be able to ride my horses. So that is why I am freelance. It is a great way of life. I love it as a job. I love going to lots of different yards. I love seeing lots of different people. It's a really sociable job, and it's fun. I get to go to the most amazing properties and stable yards. I see such a range of horses and ponies, and I love them all dearly, from like 4-star eventers and top dressage horses to literally like a bog standard Welsh pony that you just go and whiz around the fields on. Like, I love the variety of my job, and I would hate to be stuck in one yard 6-7 days a week. I wouldn't cope with that. I love the kind of fact that my job is always changing, and it kind of keeps it exciting, it keeps it fresh, it keeps it, I don't get bored. Also, it does really help keep you fit. I can still eat a few biscuits in life because I'm always on my feet. So it's great, it's an active job, and that is good for your body. So I do really think of that as a positive. I can be honest, if I'm sat in an office chair for most of the day, I could not eat the biscuits I eat at the moment. Also, a great thing about being a freelancer is you can really specialize your work. So if you're particularly good at something, maybe you're an exceptional clipper, or maybe you're great at plaiting, or maybe you're really good at jumping or something like that, you can kind of specialize your freelancing work and kind of sell what you're great at. For example, I really love my dressage. I love schooling. I believe I'm good-ish at schooling horses. I have a lot of knowledge about it, and so I try and use that as a kind of selling part of me, is that my schooling is my strongest points. Obviously I still do mucking out and all the other jobs, but I like to do more riding than yard work. I like to do more riding than grooming work if possible, mainly because I'm absolutely rubbish at clipping and things like that. But I can try and find jobs that are the kind of work I want to be doing. Whereas obviously if you are just working on one big yard, it might well be that you just get chucked the jobs you get and you don't really have a choice. So I like the fact that I can really specialise in the work I want to do. This point I actually did touch on as a negative, in the fact that this job is not high earning in the slightest. But I guess one of the positives of being a freelancer is you can choose your own rate. So you can decide how much you're worth in your work and try to get that much. If you just pick up a job working on a yard that you've found on Horse and Hand or something, then you're most likely going to be told what your hourly rate is or what your day rate is going to be. Whereas being freelancer, you have that choice. You can decide what your work is worth, and that can be a real positive. Another positive I would say is that I think you get more opportunities being a freelancer because you are working for lots more different clients. Then there are more opportunities maybe to compete horses, maybe to go to big shows. It's more varied, I think. So if you're just working in one place, then you just get that one place's opportunities. If you're working for 5 or 6 clients, there's different opportunities with each of those clients. So I think you get more exciting stuff happen, personally. Some of my tips are if you are thinking of becoming a freelancer. When looking for extra work, which often happens, chat to clients that you already have. They can be brilliant at helping you find extra jobs, and it's also well worth just dropping it into them that you are looking at doing a few more hours, because they may well turn around to you and say, well, actually we could do with you coming in an hour or 2 more. So you might gain extra work that way. But also, a lot of them have big friend circles, and if they are into horses and so on, the likelihood is their friends are into horses. And a lot of my work has come from word of mouth through my clients. And actually, all my clients know each other. Every single one of them knows of the other one, which is crazy. But pretty much all my work has come from each and every one of them. That's why they all know each other. And so it is a great way. Like recently I thought I need to pick up a little bit more work, and I literally sent them an email to all of them and just said, if you happen to know of any friends of yours that may be looking for a freelancer, then please send them my way. And it worked. I picked up a little bit of extra work. So go to them first when you're looking for work. When starting somewhere new, I suggest really chatting to your new client about the horses in depth. Get a really good idea of these horses' quirks, their nature, things they like and dislike, because I cannot tell you how many times I've started a job somewhere, started riding the horse, the client has never mentioned a horse's quirks. You get on and start riding them and you nearly end up on the deck because they forgot to mention that this horse is quite sharp and likes to have a buck or a bronc or massive spooks. I cannot count how many times on one hand, how many times I've been out hacking and suddenly the horse has gone ballistic, and you look at the client and you're like, what's that all about? And literally the client's like, oh, did I not mention it? And you're like, no, you didn't. Obviously, it's dangerous. It's one of my real bugbears when clients aren't truthful about their horses, because 9 times out of 10 you will still ride it, but it's obviously good to have a heads up of the kind of behaviour the horse has so that you're ready to deal with it. So always ask for a bit of an in-depth chat on each horse so you really get to know them. And also then it's better, your bond with that horse develops so much quicker because you understand what it's like and its behaviour. And, you know, silly things like sometimes some horses don't like you walking into their stable carrying their rug or something. It spooks them. Like, it's silly little things, but actually it can make a difference to your work and help you get to know the horse a lot quicker, and also know for any quirks that might come along the way. Get rider and groom insurance. It's obviously one that's pretty obvious, however so many people don't have it. And let's be honest, horses are silly animals and they do stupid stuff, and it's so easy for them to kick you by accident or for you to fall off. It doesn't even need to be a sparky horse that's bucking and rearing and bronking. Literally the other day I was riding a horse along some grass, it spooked at something, it slipped and then went right down and I ended up falling off. Now I was perfectly fine, but even the smallest accidents can lead to something quite serious. So get yourself some insurance, and then it protects you if you do end up having to have some time off, but it's also going to protect that horse and so on. Another top tip of mine would be that if you are looking for some new work and maybe you have found a possible new job, is to ask your current clients if they know of the people that are advertising the job. I have done this numerous times and it has worked out very well for me, because sometimes I'll be hacking with a client and I'll be like, if you heard of these people, like they're advertising at the moment and I'm thinking of like going in and, you know, chatting to them, and sometimes they'll give you the facial expression of like, don't even go there, and you're like, oh, okay. Or they'll go, oh, I'll do a bit of digging for you, I'll ask around, and they'll ask around and they'll find out some very interesting information. I have had some shocking information told to me before of possible jobs that I was interested in going to, and then when I've heard some stuff, now I know it's gossip, but I trust my clients and I believe that they're like family to me, and I feel like I'm family to them, so I feel like they want the best for me. And yeah, I've heard some really interesting stuff that's made me think, yeah, maybe we won't go and work for them, or, you know, things like they're really bad payers or they're incredibly difficult. So I think it's well worth chatting to your already clients if you've perhaps seen another job that you want to fit into your freelancing work, because they might just have some good knowledge to tell you. Finally, get some decent riding clothing. If you're going to be a freelancer, you need good equipment. You need good waterproofs, you need good warm coats, you need good gloves, you need a good riding hat. You obviously need to look smart. It's important to look presentable, something I'm not very good at from time to time, as you well know on this channel. But you need good stuff. You need good jobbers, because it will make all the difference if you're working and riding all day, every day in all sorts of weather. You need to be protected, you need to be looking after yourself, so make sure you buy decent stuff. Also, if you just buy rubbish coats, then it lasts a few months and you end up having to buy another one anyway, so it's worth splashing the cash early on, buying yourself some decent riding clothing, so that, like I say, you look smart and tidy, but also that you are protected from the weather. I've got an amazing long waterproof coat which cost me quite a lot of money, but I have to say has been an absolute godsend, and every time I wear it people are always like, oh, you look so smart. And also I feel very smug that when I'm out hacking and it's tipping down with rain, I'm dry underneath. So yeah, I would always advise on getting some good equestrian clothing and, you know, nice jobbers, because if you're riding day in, day out, you need good jobbers. 100%. Anyway, there are just a few of my pros, cons and top tips about being a freelance rider and groom. So if you are thinking of going down that career path, I hope that has helped. Please leave any comments or questions you've got in the comments below, and I will try and answer them for you. But yeah, it is a good career. It's a fun career. It's a great lifestyle, but it is a super hard one, and let's be honest, it doesn't pay that well.